I am Renee Fleming, and I'm here with Kristin Norderval and Giovanni Battistella. So, welcome, and we're really interested to hear about your project and your award with NeuroArts Blueprint and the Investigator Awards. So, why don't you just start by telling us about it?
Hi, I'm Giovanni Battistella, and I'm an assistant professor at Mass Eye and Ear and Harvard Medical School. The main goal of this project is to investigate how extensive training, like the one that is involved in classical singing, impacts the voice symptoms in Parkinson's disease. And so, what we aim to do with this project is really to have classically trained singers in the scanner and sing in the scanner while we record their brain activity. So we are recruiting singers with and without Parkinson's disease, and we will ask them to perform some small singing in the scanner that tackle different aspects of the vocal apparatus. I'm going to let Kristin to go a little bit deeper on the type of task that we're going to be doing, since she is the expert on that. And then we will record not only the brain activity, but also there is a novel technique in magnetic resonance imaging that is called dynamic MRI. And we are able really to image real time all the structure in the vocal tracts while people are singing or speaking. And so the goal is really to understand, first of all, the singing network, and then how this network is altered in patients with Parkinson's disease.
And how did you two meet each other? How did you decide to work together on this project?
I leave Kristin on that.
I got Giovanni Battistella's name through my neurologist, Dr. Frucht, at the Langone Medical Center. Actually, I think it was your supervisor or another person who you're working with in the
We
lab.
collaborate with him on other projects,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I'll back up and maybe give the background to why I was asking Dr. Frucht for recommendations and how I got to Giovanni. I have been working as a freelance singer, trained singer and soloist and composer, performer for many decades. And during COVID, I was working on a research project developing gestural controllers for processing my voice without being dependent on a screen, on looking at the screen in the computer. And I was noticing both slight tremors in my hand, and I had also started noticing things in my voice that I thought, what's going on? I was having some difficulties in pitch occasionally, and I've always been a very in tune singer. I was noticing that my palate, it was harder to open my palate in the same way with ease. And it felt uneven, like one side was more closed than the other. And this must have been micro difference, right? I was noticing that I felt sort of stiffer in general and that I was having trouble with articulation. I brought up these difficulties I was doing this research project here in Oslo, where I am right now. And it was a part of an artistic research PhD at the National Institute and National Opera Academy, part of the Oslo National Academy of the Arts. And I brought up the concerns and difficulties to my doctor that I was seeing here. And it took 2 years before they took it seriously enough to give me a recommendation to see a neurologist. And at that point, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And I had that fear that it might be just from things that I'd been reading. And going in at that point, since I've already been doing a lot of research, I thought, okay, I'm going to just turn my focus into the research of what is this all about? And I really wanted to find out what is going on. If bradykinesia is a thing, what's actually happening in my vocal apparatus that's slowing down?
I love your line of inquiry, the fact that you immediately said, first of all, why did it take 2 years for them to allow you to be diagnosed? That seems, it's frustrating. It happens all the time, of
It
course.
does happen, and I think why it happens is because they're looking for a more extreme symptom, right? I remember telling my doctor that I felt like I couldn't play my scales evenly anymore, but that wasn't enough. It was like she could see that I could still move my fingers quickly, but quickly in comparison to somebody else who's not a pianist. So those micro movements could be also an indication where people might get diagnosed earlier and be able to start doing the therapy that is so helpful for keeping the progression of the disease from going so quickly.
So, and I think it's also interesting that I'm not hearing very often that doing these things immediately, the second you realize that something is not right, is helpful, will make a difference.
Yeah.
So that's something you'll probably be able to discover with singing.
Mhm.
So
Yes,
tell me,
because it is true also in other neurological disorders. So the earlier you start with training or some other types of therapy, so the better is the long-term outcome. So that's also what we are trying to do with this study. So can it be protective? And so if so, can we also, based on the brain architecture, can we also try identify some markers that can predict earlier the disease and then behave as consequently?
wow, fantastic. Well, I really look forward to seeing the results of this, and I think it will also be useful for singing in general, Giovanni, what you
Yes,
cover.
yes, I absolutely agree. Yes.
Yes.
And in general, in everything that relates to training of the voice or changing voices, kind of,
Right.
it's absolutely relevant.
Thank you both. It's a real pleasure, and I'm excited about this project.